Well, hello and welcome to the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings and I really hope you enjoyed the new opening credits. Big round of applause for Matt Smith.
Come on, move on. Whatever.
So,
it's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do.
You're too good at this stuff, Matt. So welcome to episode number 278 of the show, and we are back again tonight to bring you more aviation news. So Matt, how are you this week?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. It's been a busy old week in the old world of driving. It's just been it's been one of those is sort of reaching the end of what I call silly season. So it's I can't remember the last time I was actually in the yard, with not much to do. It has to be said.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad you're busy.
Yeah, very much so.
And apologies this week as Nev can't join us. He's off this week. He's looking after poorly Mrs. Nev, I think, isn't he?
Dear,
yeah.
yes.
So good. Well wishes to Mrs. Nev.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Hot toddies all round, I think.
Yeah.
There we go.
Or is it just that, in fact, that him and Armando have had another disagreement, and therefore it's just like, and the embargo is back in place. Yeah.
But don't panic, because Armando's here as always this week. So welcome, Armando. How are you?
Hey everybody. I am super happy to be back this week, especially because it is Oshkosh week. So we have our packing lists ready. We haven't started packing. We're still trying to figure out what to do. But I have some big news. We've lined up some great interviews where we're going to be there.
Can you tell us, or is it all secret?
No, so I'll go ahead and throw it out there. I booked an interview with Miss Amanda Simpson, who is the Vice President of Research and Technology for Airbus Americas.
Ooh.
So that should be a great interview. And they asked me, what do you want to talk about? I was like, all things Airbus, of course. How long can I go?
Fantastic.
And in addition to that, we have a interview with Captain Tammy Jo Schultz. If you guys remember, she was the captain on Southwest Airlines 1380, who had the uncontained engine failure, and a passenger lost their life on that. So she's going to talk to us about that, as well as her Navy career. She's a very accomplished Navy pilot. Also, separate from Oshkosh, we have an interview with pilot and instructor Susan Van Fleet, who runs a seaplane training flight school. She's been flying for a long time in a bunch of quirky airplanes. And then I have also confirmed Captain Jody Perkins, who is a captain for Acme Airlines on the Airbus 220. So we'll be recording that interview. And in addition to all of that, we'll be playing out the George Catalano Bad Dingo Air Racing number 56 at the Reno Air Races, the first of probably 3 segments later on the show.
Wow.
You've had a busy time of it, haven't you? Good heavens. Yeah, absolutely.
I've got to take my hat off.
Oh no, put it back on. Your hair's in a terrible mess.
I know, so I need a haircut. Yeah. I know, really do. Yeah. That sounds absolutely awesome. Armando, you are a legend.
Yeah.
That is,
actually,
fantastic.
Megan's just said in the chat room here, I guess I know what I'll be doing in Oshkosh. Anyone have any tips on being a good camera person?
any garden centres near Oshkosh? Or,
yeah, that might be the way forward.
No, possibly. Yeah.
I'd stay in the Airbnb if I were you.
So we have,
and like everything else in our life, I'm just going to be in front of the camera, and she's going to be the director.
Quite right,
Hurrah.
Absolutely. And that is good advice for happy married life. I'm not going to lie.
So we have got a guest joining us on the show who we're going to chat to later on, Colin Hitchins, who is from Biggin Hill.
Whoa, Masha just says, I hear portrait mode is all the rage.
Oh,
please
mode,
don't do that. No. Sorry, I interrupted you in your prime there.
Well
carry
done.
on.
Yeah, so Colin is we're going to chat to Colin later on the show about the Biggin Hill Festival of Flight and what goes on there and all the ins and outs of the runnings of the airport. So we're looking forward to that coming up later, as well as Armando said, the first piece from him as well, chatting about the Reno Air Races. So looking forward to that. So quick date and time check and a welcome to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. All the usual family members in there this evening. We've got Jonathan Warner, who's just come back from his day at RIA. He's took about 4.5 million photos over the last day.
I bet he's slightly sunburnt as well. Yeah.
I know. And we've got Neil Lamworm, we've got Pilot Pips in the chat room, Jenny in Rome, we've got Graham Haley, so he's looking after us.
Yeah.
Dr. Steph's in the chat room, Richard Adams is in the chat room. Just scrolling up here, just in case. Chris Griggs, hello to you. Masha, Milo has also popped in earlier as well. She said a quick hello. Scrolling up, don't think I miss anyone. Masha, no, I don't think I missed anyone.
Haley,
Auntie Liz, hello,
yeah,
Auntie Liz.
Yeah.
And obviously we've got Armando's boss in the chat room as well,
yes,
keeping an eye on
legend
what
that
he's
is.
doing. Exactly.
Anyway, shall we do some aviation?
Yeah,
news?
we're going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt,
I am. Yep.
and if you're ready, Armando, he's on mute.
Ready?
Yeah, he was on mute again. There we go.
So kicking off this week's first news story on the skynews.com website. Oh dear, someone's going to have an empty bank account very soon because Jet2.com orders abusive passenger to pay £85,000 after Royal Air Force jets escort the plane back to the UK. So an extremely disruptive passenger has been ordered to pay £85,000 by a UK airline after 2 Royal Air Force Typhoon fighter jets had to escort the aircraft back to Stansted. British low-cost airline Jet2.com said Chloe Haynes had to be restrained by passengers and crew after she tried to open the doors of the Turkey-bound aircraft during the flight. Miss Haynes, 25, is also banned from Jet2.com for life after she displayed a catalogue of aggressive, abusive and dangerous behaviour on the aircraft, which included attempting to open the aircraft doors during the flight, Jet2 said in a statement. In their rush to escort the aircraft, the Royal Air Force fighter jets created a sonic boom which could be heard for miles around, the airline also added. When the aircraft arrived back in the UK, the police boarded the aircraft, arrested Miss Haynes on suspicion of assault and endangering an aircraft. Steve Heapy, chief executive of Jet2.com, said Jet2 Holidays and said that Mrs. Haynes' behaviour was one of the most serious cases of disruptive passenger behaviour that they have ever experienced at the airline. She must now face up to the consequences of her actions, and we will vigorously pursue to recover the costs that we incurred as a result of the divert, as what we do with all passengers. As a family-friendly airline, we take an absolutely zero-tolerance approach to disruptive behaviour, and we hope that this sobering incident, with its very serious consequences, provide a stark warning to others who think that they can behave in this fashion.
Actually, you were reading that when I woke up this morning, my alarm went, and I opened my phone, and you quite often get these top stories. What was rather interesting is on the Evening Standard, which is a free newspaper here in London. There was the headline that said, "Couple demand compensation for helping restrain abusive Jet2 passenger after she's fined 85k." So the people that were helping to restrain
Can I get paid, please?
have now decided that they want to get a cut, if you like.
My view on this story is, will they get that money?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, she hasn't got that kind of money.
Exactly.
No, the short answer is no.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Armando, how do you feel about the couples involved in this story actually going after some of that money themselves?
I'm not sure I feel very positive about that. I mean, you would think it'd be enough that you helped restrain a passenger that could have potentially put 200 people in danger. Seeking compensation for that, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't do it. I'm not in their shoes.
No, I
but
guess.
You know, as far as this.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I guess it's the thing is, I suppose they're going for that money, I suppose, and they're saying, well, we helped you with that incident. But then, of course, what they're not realising is a lot of that is the costs involved in diversions and the fuel and the compensating of the other passengers for being delayed and all that kind of thing. I mean, it's a funny one, isn't it? Really, it's
Well,
Yeah.
they'll know it when they get the bill through.
Well, yeah, this is true. Yeah,
That's
but
for
I
sure.
mean, we cover these stories week in, week out, don't we? It's getting a bit beyond a joke, isn't it? Why can't people just behave themselves when they're in the air?
Auntie Liz says in the chat room that she believes the woman in the story works in a coffee shop. What chance does she have of paying £85,000?
Well, yes, exactly. Yes, this is it. I mean, or it'll be £10 a week until a week
Yeah.
past her death, won't it? It's going to be one of those, isn't it? Yes, this is on the independent.co.uk website, and the headline is Ryanair renames Boeing 737 MAX planes on order. So Ryanair, which has more than 200 Boeing 737 MAX jets on order, appears to have renamed the plane the 737-8200. Europe's biggest budget airline has not yet operated the aircraft, which has been grounded worldwide after 2 fatal crashes. But a number of aircraft have been built for the carrier, and others are under construction. Pictures taken at the Boeing factory at Renton near Seattle show a new 737 aircraft in Ryanair colours with the word MAX replaced by the number 8200. Ryanair has ordered a unique design of Boeing 737 MAX with additional seats and an extra emergency exit. It can hold 197 passengers, 8 more than the standard 189 in its existing fleet of 737-800 aircraft, the only type the airline currently flies. The photographer Chris Edwards tweeted, "Looks like Ryanair is dropping the MAX title from its new 737 MAX 200 aircraft. Instead of 737 MAX, on the nose, the 5th aircraft rolled out of the paint shop wearing 737-8200 in its place. 7629 Echo India Hotel Alpha Yankee 737-8200 has been painted and wears the new model designation on the nose. Ryanair had originally intended to start flying the aircraft from Stansted in May. The first fatal accident involving the Boeing 737 MAX was a Lion Air jet. Anyway, you get the issue here. I mean, do you think this is going to
happen?
Do you think this is going to fool everyone though?
It's not going to fool anyone because we all, even non-AV geeks, would know what the aircraft is. But I had a feeling that this might happen. Ryanair has obviously been the first airline to do this name change. But at the end of the day, it is a MAX. What do you think, Armando?
Yeah. Most people are not going to know. I've been on 737-800s with the wingtips that go up and the wingtips that go down, and I said, well, is that a MAX? Because it really, unless you know what you're looking for, you're not going to know the difference. And I think when I read the story, I was thinking about the 13th floor thing, how the number 13 is unlucky. Yeah. About 85% of buildings don't have a 13th floor, just for no reason other than it's an unlucky number. So if they rebrand the entire aircraft, the MAX or the 737-8200, then it's probably a step in putting that stigma behind them.
I used to work in a hotel. We didn't have we had rooms 10, 11 and 12, and then a room 14. We didn't have a room 13 for that very same reason.
Yeah.
So I think the MAX name will probably go by the wayside.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you in the chat room who are watching the live show, just wondering what the picture is behind us, we didn't say at the top of the show, but that is a cutaway section of a BAE 146 showing the luggage hold underneath the passenger floor. So, for those of you wondering what that one is behind me and
Matt. So no Nev this week.
So Armando,
good luck.
BA story. And Armando's frozen.
Are you there, Armando?
Yeah, this internet connection is not very stable. Oh, Matt, we're just gonna give you a run for your money today.
Yes. I mean, once you've started editing, I mean, we may as well go for broke this week, mightn't we? Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, is it stabilised a bit now?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, okay. So do the intro again, please.
So the next story.
Hang on, wrong camera.
So the next story, as Nev is not with us this week, is obviously a BA story. But Armando, this one's going to be for you.
Well, I'm extremely honored to be filling in for Nev. It is from 1 Mile at a Time, and it has to do with the first plane featuring the Club Suites, British Airways A350-1000, which is expected to join the fleet next week. So that plane will initially fly between London and Madrid to familiarize crews with the plane, though the airline has already scheduled long-haul flights with the plane to Toronto, Dubai, Tel Aviv, and Bangalore. It's possible thanks to the airline taking delivery of 4 of these airplanes over the coming months. British Airways will retrofit their 777s and their 787s with these Club Suites, and we've known that before the end of 2019, the airline plans on having 2 777s with the new cabins. That first plane is now on the schedule. So if you've got the money and you've got the will, it is British Airways 177 from London to New York, departing at 1 p.m., and British Airways 174 from New York back to London at 7:50 p.m. You'll take a look at the seat maps, and you'll see those Club Suites are highlighted there. In response, Virgin Atlantic is introducing their new upper class seats to New York September 10th of 2019, which also look beautiful in typical Virgin fashion, quite literally, very colorful and looks amazing. So let's see, it's expected that British Airways will also schedule their second 777 with the new seats for the new route, and by the end of the year, you'll see 2 flights a day with these seat maps.
I have to say,
there you go. We've been talking about this. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, between the two, I have to say the BA seat does look a lot better. It just looks more. I don't know. It just looks like really nice and comfortable. And also, do you notice Armando?
I think they're very appropriate.
Do you notice on that picture, Armando, the seat belt on that BA seat?
Oh yeah, look at that. It's like very much like a car seat, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, rather than a lap belt.
Yeah, if you look at the picture, which I think Matt did put up on the screen.
Put it up. Hang on, I'll try and do it again.
The picture on the screen of that BA business class seat, the actual the usual lap belt is still there, but it's also got like the over shoulder
bit,
harness as well on there, which obviously for added safety. But I do think that seat does look just
a lot classier,
really
doesn't
nice.
It, I think.
Yeah, it does look really nice.
Although to be fair, I just want to be clear that if I'm being offered a seat in both Virgin, I'm not going to decline the generous seat of a cuff.
And obviously, if anyone from BA is listening, obviously me and Nev are flying out to Dubai in November.
And you'd like to road test
and we'd love to try,
obviously
we're flying out the A350-1000. We'd love to try the Club Suite
Would
seats,
you?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and don't forget that Armando and Megan are in the U.S., and we'd also love to go from New York to London and try this out, maybe sometime by the 300th show.
There's dates to follow. Moving on to the
Good luck with that, children. Yeah, okay.
Moving on to the next story. This one is on the eu.commercialappeal.com website. That's a big one again.
Right.
And the headline: FedEx still #1 among cargo airlines, while UPS falls. Industry reports say. So FedEx is still the king of cargo airlines, while rival UPS dropped a notch, according to the new reports from the International Air Transport Association. FedEx ranked first among airlines in 2018 in scheduled freight ton kilometres flown, according to the IATA World Air Transport Statistic reports. UPS ranked 4th in this category behind Emirates and Qatar Airways after placing 3rd the year before. Freight ton kilometres, or FTK, flown is a measurement of cargo airline activity, factoring in both how much an airline is carrying and how far it carries those goods. 1 FTK represents 1 metric ton of goods moved 1 kilometre. FedEx is ranked first in FTK since at least 2014, per the IATA. The ranking factors in FTK for both international flights and domestic flights. In 2018, FedEx totaled roughly 17.5 billion FTK, up from 16.9 billion the year before. 9 billion of that came from domestic traffic, also first amongst airlines for international traffic. FedEx placed 4th with about 8.5 billion. UPS, which has a smaller air fleet than FedEx and is known for more ground delivery, saw 12.5 billion in 2018 compared to 11.9 billion in 2017. So the 2 airlines that fly for Amazon Air, the e-commerce giant's cargo airline brand landed in the top 25 for domestic. Atlas Air, 761 million, placed 5th domestically, while ABX Air, 422 million, ranked 12th, and Atlas Air placed 16th overall in total, FTK at 4.6 billion. Now, obviously, with the huge Prime Day or double day that we've just had here in the UK, I'd imagine there has been probably a bit of an upturn in the amount of freight that's been flying around the skies in the last few days.
I mean, I was actually coming past. We were two driver coming back from London going via Stansted down the M11 actually, and weirdly, it was UPS. What else did we see? TNT,
DHL over there.
DHL, all that sort of thing. And there was just literally I don't know whether it was just the sheer coincidence, but for a brief moment, because obviously we were on the flight path for Stansted as you're coming down the 11 and that, and I did literally see it must have been a good 10 cargo planes taking off one after the other, going sort of all. Well, it drew my attention because it did a very extreme sort of bank round. But I suppose if you've got no passengers,
on board,
yeah, absolutely, you haven't got to worry about losing people losing their lunch.
Cargo air freight is a big thing. You know, you only got to look on Flight Radar 24
You don't
at night.
realise though. You sort of assume that, as I say, it was, whether it was just a freak time that we happened to be going down the 11, but it was so. It stood out that there were all these different liveries going out that weren't it was literally just cargo. You don't realise. I guess I didn't realise how big Stansted was for cargo.
When here in the U.S. In 2017, FedEx signed a contract with the U.S. Postal Service, so everything, not everything, but a lot of the USPS stuff is going through FedEx. And then another question I had, I'm curious about these numbers because FedEx has a lot of feeders. They're subcontract to FedEx, where there's caravans and shorts. Like when we flew to Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago, there was a whole ramp full of FedEx aircraft, and they were shorts 360s. Well, those don't belong to FedEx. They belong to Mountain Air Cargo or some other cargo. I wonder if those numbers are also included in FedEx's total numbers to keep them at the top.
Yeah, possibly. Could well be. Yeah.
I think they've still got DC-10s, Armando. I think haven't they, or MD-11s?
I think there are some MD-11s.
MD-11s
at FedEx still. Lots of 777s, 767s.
Yeah, I mean it's inevitable given how much stuff that we're ordering online and stuff now. I mean, it's hardly
me this week.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's hardly a surprise really that there's so much coming in.
So the next story, Matt, is obviously on this. Well, we have to have a story from Flight Global,
absolutely. Just because of the font. It's really easy to read. So it's
a worrying story.
Yeah, flightglobal.com, and I mean they've done a very good job of keeping it all a bit under the radar. This haven't they? But Airbus has introduced a temporary revision to the A321neo flight manuals, intended to prevent the possibility of the aircraft reaching excessive pitch altitudes.
Attitudes. You said altitudes.
I did, yes. Sorry. So
like your acrobatics.
Explain the difference. Sorry, explain the difference because I
pitch
assumed
attitude.
It's
the rate or the angle of which the aircraft.
Okay. And Armando, please, in English so that I can understand.
So attitude is which way the airplane's pointing. Altitude is how high it is.
Oh, okay. Right, there we are. I stand very much well corrected in that case. Suddenly I do. Yes, so it's if it's.
So what's wrong with these Airbus aircraft?
So the European Union Aviation Safety Agency has disclosed that revision follows analysis of the re-engined type's elevator and is it aileron computer?
Ailerons, yeah.
Aileron computer. It has not elaborated on the situation beyond stating that excessive pitch could occur under certain conditions and during specific manoeuvres. The EASA cautions that this could result in reduced control of the aircraft. Airbus has issued temporary revisions to the aircraft's flight manual incorporating operational limitations. EASA has ordered operators of the A321neo to amend the flight manuals accordingly within 30 days. The order covers both the CFM International LEAP 1A and the Pratt & Whitney PW 1100G versions of the aircraft. Airbus has issued 7 relevant temporary revisions to the flight manual on the 21st of June and 10th of July. The EASA says that the safety measure is an interim action and could be followed by further requirements. So,
well, that's about as vague as they can get, isn't it? Excessive pitch during quotes during specific maneuvers. So I think they've probably. I would assume that in the wake of the. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody stumbled upon something in the wake of the 737 issues and may have said, hey, we're going to take a preemptive correction on something.
So this may literally be that then. It's just a preemptive strike, if you like. So maybe nobody has had an issue perhaps, but something was found during testing or whatever. I mean, as you say, it's alarmingly vague.
Yeah, when it goes to show, the A321neo, it's a new aircraft with new technologies and
larger engines.
And they're going to have teething issues.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, absolutely. As are all aircraft. I suppose, fortunately, this one hasn't sort of involved any incidents per se.
Thankfully, yeah. So, Armando, next story is, well, just for a change, this week, Armando, the next story is a Ryanair one for you.
Ooh.
I do have a Ryanair story from travelweekly.co.uk. So Southend Airport. Sorry, is this London Southend Airport?
London, yes, London.
Yeah. I don't know why you're
London,
so shocked.
Norwich.
Yeah. Hey, now look, it's not big enough.
So Southend Airport saw a second quarter passenger number rise by 57% year on year, thanks to a new Ryanair and Loganair services. The total period from April to June was almost 610,000 passengers, said the Stobart Group-owned airport. Passenger numbers in April rose by 65% to almost 188,000. Numbers in May, 58%, 204,000. June, 217,000, 50% rise. Numbers traveling from inner London also increased, now represent 40% of all passengers, thanks to the new Ryanair flights, which started in April. The No Frills carrier has based 3 aircraft at the Southend Airport to operate 14 new routes. Connections to London are also being improved by new early arrival and late departure times for Greater Anglia train services. Glyn Jones, Stobart Aviation chief executive, said the addition of new early and late trains has enhanced our reputation as one of the most accessible, convenient airports to get to. Compared to the other London airports, which are full to capacity, it is no surprise that Londoners are increasingly choosing to fly from London's South End.
I mean,
we are also continuing.
I suppose in defence of that statement, I mean, Southend is not fantastically close to London, but I suppose it is as close to London as Stansted is. To be fair,
have you flown from?
Because it's just a quick hack down the one. It's just a quick hack down the 13, isn't it? To Stansted.
So I actually went to London Southend to look at a mall that I was thinking about buying when I was over there, and it was way easier to get to than any of the London airports except for Stansted. Stansted's pretty convenient, it's right on the main thoroughfare, and you can get there by train or car fairly easy. But Southend was almost enjoyable to drive to, and it was a small airport, so.
Yeah. The great thing with Southend Airport is the fact that you can park your car in the car park and walk to the terminal building within 2 minutes. And it's the whole check-in process is easy. I think with the increase in passenger numbers and the growth that they're now obviously having at London Southend, I just wonder whether they're going to have to start to think about expanding slightly with the buildings, because it is quite small, isn't it? It's quite small, yeah.
But it is nevertheless a success story. There's no two ways about that. I mean, that's
hats off to them, because they've done a really good job.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who'd have thought a lorry company would be so good at running an airport? There we are. Never mind.
So the next story.
That's what I read that bit in the show notes. Sorry. Don't worry.
The next story. That's a hint to Matt there.
Yeah.
The next story.
You are right.
This one I actually found this one late last night. It's quite a good video actually that comes with. This one is on the logisticsmiddleeast.com website, and the headline British Airways plane almost strikes tourists in insanely low landing. So the story goes, dramatic video has emerged at the moment a BA plane flew just metres above the heads of tourists in Greece. The BA Embraer E190 aircraft was filmed at Skiathos Airport in Greece as it was approaching the runway to land. Skiathos Airport is dubbed by aviation enthusiasts as the European St. Martin due to its low landings. Hundreds of people gather to watch jumbo jets land just beyond a popular tourist beach on the island. People are warned not to get close to the runway with a sign saying, "Danger, please keep away from aircraft blast." Footage of the BA aircraft landing shows people being pushed off a wall by the gust from the aircraft blast. Now, Matt's playing the video there for those of you watching on YouTube, and that does look... I think what's deceiving, I would think, I don't know, the camera angle possibly makes it look lower than it is, because, I mean, there are limits
Does it need to be that? Does the landing need to be that low?
I think it would...
That's exactly my point when I watched this video. Was this is an Embraer jet, and he put it down right at the end of the runway, so right on the threshold. And if you continue to watch the 11-minute video, there's plenty of 737s that come in there, and they're putting it down, 500 or 1,000 feet down the runway.
Yeah.
And this pilot was, while not unsafe, I think. Put it down right at the edge of the runway in a much smaller airplane than he probably needed to.
I mean, there was this story that I seem to remember. I think I saw it on Twitter. I don't know if you guys might have seen it as well. And I think it was from one of the... I can't remember the name of the guy now, so perhaps it's just as well I can't. But they were talking about... I think they were talking about like some of the Gibraltar... Is it the Gibraltar, or where is it where you go in... and it's very famous, isn't it? Where I think you've been there, where it's really low landings over a beach.
Lanzarotte's
is it? Well, anyway, whichever one it is, and he was just sort of saying that it's like, the health and safety thing in you should surely be screaming at you as a pilot to say, I don't need to come in this low, I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that. Because otherwise, if it was required that you needed to come in that low and that close to actual people and a beach, surely there would be restrictions and cordons in place, because that is just so dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a normal 3-degree glide slope would bring you in a little bit higher than that if you were coming down. So I just looked it up. It's a 5,341-foot runway at Skiathos. So did he need to put it on a number right at the threshold? Probably not. I think it was likely a visual landing that may have just been a little bit too low for comfort.
Yeah, Graham Haley in the chat room says he'd argue that at the point where you're nearly clipping road signs, you're probably bordering on dangerous.
A bit low, yes.
I mean, the freeze frame on that story, the shot that shows, I mean, the undercarriage of the aircraft, I mean, if those people standing on that wall would have jumped up, they could have probably hung on and had a trip down the runway.
Is it really that close though? That's the thing.
It does look close. It does look
so
close.
mean, because so many of these stories. I think it was the Sun or someone like that was running a story like with the fighter jet going through the valley, or and claiming that people could reach out and top it. I mean, is it really? Or looking at that picture there, I mean, is it really as low as?
For me, I'd love it.
Yeah.
What I'm looking at is at the attitude of the aircraft.
Yeah.
Is how far up the nose is. So he's in a flare already. He or she, they're in a flare already, and they're at quite a nose high attitude, approaching that berm and the turnaround. Because if you see at the left, at the very end of the runway, there's probably a 200-foot turnaround, and then the runway threshold. And so, I think if you watch the rest of the video and see where the other aircraft land, it'll give you a better comparison of how this guy may have been a little bit lower than.
Well, the link to the story will be in the show notes. So if you want to,
there's a lot of love in the chat room, by the way, for London. Every airport in the world is now London.
London, Norwich.
London, Norwich. I mean, you've got London.
London, Biggin Hill.
London, Atlanta Airport.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, Megan and I have a very short flight tomorrow or Sunday from London, Charlotte to London, Chicago.
Excellent, lovely, excellent. Yes, and I hope the cash required to fly from between those two airports is appropriately low as a result. Yeah,
there we go. That's this week's show title for the London, any airport, London.
Yeah,
London.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next story is on the Flight Global website again, because we love the Flight Global website.
Yes,
and
indeed.
flightglobal.com. And headline is good news for Brian Coleman, fan of United Airlines, because United to pick up batch of used 737-700s. So United Airlines has agreed to purchase a batch of used 737-700s and intends to start taking delivery of the jets before the end of this year. The airline is to take 19 of the twin jets and expects deliveries to begin in December. United has not elaborated on the decision, which it disclosed in a brief note within its second quarter financial results, nor has it given a source of the jets. The US operator has 40 of the type in its fleet, according to Serum's fleet analyzer, and United is a user of the 737 MAX as well, with 14 of the MAX 9 variant. The airline official fleet plan indicates that this will rise to 30 MAX jets by the end of the year, with another 28 due in 2020. But United points out that this does not take into account any delays, obviously following the suspension. United say they've generated a second quarter net income, or good news for anyone who's got shares in United, $1.1 billion. And it's also said it's achieved the highest second quarter pre-tax income in its history, attributing this to the continued successful implementation of its business strategy, for those of you who can fly in business class. And Chief Executive Oscar Munoz says the airline is now consistently delivering results for our customers as well as investors, and that it is raising its full year earnings per share guidance. And it's safe to say, I mean, the 700 series wasn't, I mean, they sold quite a few of these Boeing, but I think out of all the models, the sort of next-gen models, I think, Armando, you'll agree, the 800 was probably the most popular one for the airlines.
Yeah, very much so.
You're right there, Matt.
I was laughing at the just the title of the story, the headline, because it says used 737-700s. Well, there's a lot of used aircraft out there. I mean,
the desert's full of them.
I suppose American picked up a bunch of used U.S. Airways aircraft when it merged, and all the Air Berlin aircraft that are now in Virgin. So I don't know that there's much of a story here other than making up for.
I'm busy laughing at Neil's comment in the chat room, which is we're having a 50th anniversary of the first landing at London Moon Airport. That's amused me, I'm afraid. Megan is actually being rather amused by this here.
The rotating fan.
The rotating fan behind me and Carlos here. That seems to have caught her attention.
Oh, God, I love it.
Absolutely. Right, on to the next story.
Oh, the next story. Yeah. And this is bad news.
Such disarray. I love it.
The next story is...
My favourite website, actually, this is the BBC.
Bad news for Nev, this one.
Yes, absolutely. Heathrow Airport, based on BBC News, Heathrow Airport baggage system fault delays BA passengers. Mainly, I should stress, because this was actually out of Terminal 5, wasn't it? And in fact, actually, how I saw it was because there was a tweet from Eddie Izzard. He was obviously flying. That's how come I saw it. Yeah. I follow him on Twitter. Anyway, thousands of British Airways passengers had to wait for several hours to check in at Heathrow Airport due to a fault with the airline's baggage system. The issues began around about 8 a.m. British summer time, with staff having to check in luggage using a slower manual procedure. Terminal 5 was the worst affected, although the fault also occurred at Terminal 3 and Gatwick Airport. British Airways said the system was now up and running and the backlog should be cleared soon. The airline said a small number of flights left without all customers' baggage loaded, with luggage being put on the next available flight. Other travellers complained that they had missed their flights as a result. Passenger Andy Gibbs flew to Bologna airport in Italy with his wife and children, but said that their luggage was missing. He told the BBC, "I'm standing in a queue with all of the rest of the passengers and none of them have their bags, and we've all been told to fill in a lost luggage form." I mean, you get the gist here, as I say.
No, this wouldn't have happened if they had those RFID tag things we chatted about a few weeks ago on the show.
I think it still would have. Yeah, the only difference between that and there is you'd know it was still in the airport.
Yeah.
That's the only plus side, I suppose.
As you land in Berlin, you'll be able to see. My bag's still
my bag is still at home. Excellent.
My bag's in Japan. Yay!
What a result! Yeah.
No, I think it's probably, I don't know. It's one thing that I suppose would scare me if I was going on a relaxing holiday and I got there and my luggage wasn't there. But then, that's why we have insurance, and that's why most airlines will get the bag to you.
Given the holiday that you're referring to, that you're having when you next go on your holiday, where you intend to basically essentially do nothing, as long as you've got your boxer shorts, frankly,
exactly.
Then what more do you need? I mean, it's it's as long as the sun lounger is okay and you've got hotel towels, you'll be fine.
And don't forget as well. I mean, I'll be carrying hand luggage, which will be with me, which will have the ability for me to play podcasts.
Of course, absolutely.
Which is
will be
all
ultimate,
I need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a sunbed.
I'd be more worried in your situation if you've been and got a certain brand of goodies that you bought at the location that you're at because Gemma has given you a shopping list.
I know.
And if you come back and it gets lost on the way home, then I wouldn't bother going home.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't bother. She'll tell you to not go home.
I mean, I'm gonna touch wood here. The door frame is wooden. There we go. For the suspicious or superstitious people in the chat room, that I can honestly say, in all my years of flying, and I've done many years of flying around the world, I've never had this happen before.
Oh, why would you say that when you're going
I know.
to Dubai? What is the matter with you?
Anyway, I haven't. Anyway,
your camera is not arriving in Dubai.
That's going with me in hand luggage.
All right, okay. Anyway, last story, Armando. This is with you. This one's taken me a little bit by surprise. I didn't know that there was a second runway already in place at Gatwick.
That's right, from the British Broadcasting Company.
Corporation,
Gatwick
dear boy, corporation.
Corporation, sorry.
Oh, dear Lord.
Carry on, Armando. Carry on.
I may be nitpicking a tad, sorry.
So Gatwick Airport has revealed its plans to use its emergency runway for routine flights amid criticism from both MPs and campaigners. The airport said it would seek planning permission to widen the airstrip in order to bring it into full passenger use by the mid-2020s. The West Sussex Airport said the move was in line with government policy. Communities Against Gatwick Noise Emissions said it would lead to a second runway by stealth. Apparently not, since it's on the BBC. Gatwick lost out to Heathrow Airport in a bid to obtain government approval to build an additional runway, amid a need for more airport capacity in the southeast of England. The master plan would see the emergency runway widened by 39 feet or 12 meters to comply with safety regulations and used for departures only. The airport said the measure aligned with the government's policy of making the best use of existing runways. It said the focus of the plan would be on using new technology to build capacity and resilience on the main runway. The plan also recommends safeguarding land for an additional runway should there be a need to build one. Chief Executive Stuart Wingate said the 12-week public consultation showed that there was a strong support for Gatwick and the local area's ambitions. However, MPs from Gatwick Coordination Group said the airport has continually underinvested in the local amenities and social infrastructure that would be required to support a project of this size and scale. We cannot support the expansion of the airport without a comprehensive investment in the local area, which would ease pressure on the overstretched road and rail systems servicing the airport. Peter Barclay, the Gatwick Area Conservation Campaign, said the news was devastating to communities and argued there were rapid changes to what was known about environmental impact of aviation.
I have to say, I've flown from both Gatwick and Heathrow, and I don't know. I seem to prefer flying from Gatwick.
I hate going to Gatwick.
Really?
I absolutely
I
hate it as an airport. It just takes forever to get to.
Yeah.
Heathrow somehow, which is technically, I should stress, Heathrow is technically
further
away
yeah.
mileage-wise, but it just doesn't seem to take as long to get to. And I think it is purely and simply because you're going right from where we are on the M25 and not left through Dartford Tunnel. And I think that's all it boils down to. I guess if you're the other, if it weren't for that, perhaps it wouldn't be so bad. I mean, I used to take parents would quite often fly from Gatwick going on holiday, and certainly if you go back sort of 20 years, it really wasn't that bad a journey. But now, having done it in the coach a few times, it is a horrendous airport to get to.
So the runways, Armando, at London Gatwick, 2 runways, 08 left, 26 right, 08 right, 26 left. So you've got 26 right is 8,415 feet long, and 26 left is 10,879 feet long. And there is a note on the Gatwick website as such, says that even though they do have the 2 runways, it says that the proximity to each other prevents simultaneous operations on both runways, meaning only one can be used at a time. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's right. The even on visual approaches, on instrument approaches especially, it would be too close. And I think we were talking, I think last year sometime to Adam about some of the runway separation criteria. But when we were talking about Heathrow, so yeah, the runways are way too close together, but using one runway for departures and another one for arrivals would significantly increase the capacity for an operation, which is either a takeoff or a landing from that airport.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, guys, but we'll be right back after these short messages.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
TheVoicesInYourHead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself, and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23 Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2TME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
So we came up with the idea of having a video course.
Obviously ours are better because we've got the experience on the aircraft and we know what we need to be looking at.
Something that myself and Andy started initially really to improve our own technical knowledge and put something out there. We saw that there was a gap and this wasn't a media that was being used for this purpose, and our hunch was right because there was obviously a market for it.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed-base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com, or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
Welcome back. So next up on the show, we have got a very special guest joining us, Colin Hitchins. He's one of the top guys at Biggin Hill, who looks after all the ins and outs of the Festival of Flight. And Colin, welcome onto the show.
Thank you very much.
So Colin, tell us a bit about what you do at Biggin Hill.
Well, you elevated me to the top guy. Up until about 2 years ago, I was the only guy. So, I was a team of one, now a team of two. But this year's Festival of Flight is now the fifth in a row? So we started back again in 2014, having had a gap from 2011. I'm sure many of you guys went to the old air show. That was also run by me. So I took over running the air show from 2003 right to 2010 when it was stopped. We came to the end of our license. And then we decided to bring it back as more of a community event. So our target is no longer to attract 40,000 people a day as we used to. It's more like 10 or 15,000 and open the doors to our local community in our area. But of course, when you're attracting the likes of the Red Arrows, the audience comes from a little bit further.
So what does it take, Colin, to put the show together? I mean, when you talk about air shows, you obviously got the different displays and acts and stuff that you have on display. Is there a lot of contact, pre-contacts and stuff to go with the different display teams?
Well, many people think, we all have the ability to just go out there and cherry pick every display act, much like REACT can. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case. I remember presenting at the European Air Show Council in about 2007, and I then showing that we used to have 11 or 12 display acts alone from the Royal Air Force. I mean, let's think back. We had two versions of Tornado. We had Harrier, we had Sea Harrier from the Navy, the Falcons, the Hercules, the Chinook, and so the list went on. And what have we got left now? So it is becoming a lot tougher for us to get a strong show that's going to appeal to everyone. But we have got a reputation of putting on good shows, and I try still to follow the ethos of the founder of the air show, Squadron Leader Jock Maitland. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He died back in 2009. But he always wanted to show every facet of aviation. And I think we can almost achieve that every year.
So are there any special acts this year that you've got at the show which haven't been to Biggin Hill previously?
Well, I think the best one that we're seeing, although we've seen the types before, the Ultimate Fighters, Richard Grace is bringing down some beautiful aircraft and flying them as a four-ship, even if in our restricted airspace, is going to be a real treat. But we're also delighted to see the Royal Jordanian Falcons back. That's the first time we've seen them for many years. So yeah, there's some good things in there. We had hoped to bring the ME-109E out, but we're really having trouble getting the DA for that aircraft sorted. It is unique, and there's only two of those flying in the world, I think, as many of you probably know. And the last thing we want to do is have a problem with it. But she'll be out on the showground anyway.
I've got a question from the chat room for you, Colin, from Jonathan Warner. He's one of our photographers who's currently at REACT doing his thing there. He's got a question. He's asking, what did it take to get the Czech CSAR demo with the hind and hip a few years ago?
That took... let's start the story. So I got approached from the Czech Air Force to bring over one of their Second World War veterans who flew Spitfires with the RAF to fly him in one of the two-seaters we have at Biggin. So we arranged that thinking that we were going to be sent over a veteran and a couple of helpers with him, bearing in mind he was, I think he was 94 at the time. To our surprise, we had a caster turned up fully loaded, 42 on board, including the Archbishop of Prague. So it was quite a ceremony. But we quickly returned the visit and popped back out to Prague, had a meeting with the Chief of the Air Staff, and he agreed to send over the assets. So we were very, very lucky that year to get the Gripen and the helicopters. And yeah, fingers crossed that can happen again.
Just one question that I've always worried about. Obviously, I'll just refer to it as the incident, for want of a better word. But obviously, off the back of that incident, that must have changed the rules so much. Like, so the work that you guys have to do if you like to put on an air show must be so different to how it was just a couple of years ago.
It's becoming very difficult. I mean, it's difficult from a perspective of how the pilots are going to plan their routines at different fields. I mean, if you look at this year's Typhoon lineup, it's only displaying at 3 venues where it's taking off, and that's Riyadh, Yeovilton and Biggin. Yeah. There are very, very few land-based shows left now that can put the full show on. Mm-hmm. The seasides are easier for everyone. I don't think it's quite as good a spectacle, personally. I think that, you know, especially if they've got a long pier and there's someone standing on the end of it, you add another 450 metres off the back of that for high-speed pass, it's a distant show for many. Mm. But we're Biggin have for many years abided by almost the current rules. It's been our policy. So although we found it a little bit more difficult, and that was one of the reasons we didn't have Typhoon last year, because we had to reevaluate the airspace that we were using. And we found a way around it with the current display pilot, because we've got to be sure that we are abiding by the rules. You know, we are an international airport. We've got a reputation to keep up, and the last thing we want to do is cut any corners on safety.
Armando, you've got some questions.
Yeah. Hey, Colin. Thanks for being on the show. Graham asked this question. He's one of our air traffic controllers in the chat room, and I had the same. So you're talking about these airspace restrictions. I can only imagine what kind of coordination does it take. You're fairly close to the London congested airspace. So what are some of those limitations and restrictions?
Well, we've got a ceiling of 2,400 feet. Now, bear in mind, we're already 600 feet up. We're one of the highest points in London. So it doesn't leave a lot for display. So all of our shows, unless we get some special dispensation on the day, are flat shows. Now, the vast majority of the people attending Biggin Hill are the general public. Their families enjoying a good day out. And if you ask them the question, was that flat, a rolling or a full show, they wouldn't have a clue. So the main thing is we can still showcase the aircraft. We also have a 5-mile restricted airspace temporary around that Biggin, and obviously, as I said, we are an international airport, so we've got full air traffic and radar coverage of that area, so we can just about fit it in. But I must admit, the last time we did the roll demo, which was about 2008, the E3D did bust Gatwick, and some Virgin Atlantic passengers came to a swift halt on the runway.
Oh.
Well, and that kind of leads me to one of the my follow-up questions is I'm looking at the lineup of aircraft, and I think you've done a fantastic job of representing every facet of aviation, because you've got the Breitling jet team, the Jordanian Falcons, you've got the Blades, the Tiger 9 formation. So with the Breitling jet team or any of the other formation teams, what are some of the challenges that brings from either a ramp space or logistical standpoint?
Ramp space, we're not too bad. I mean, for those of you who've known the show for many years, it started life in late May or June. We've now had to move it into August because our airport, for those that are not aware of what Biggin does on a day-to-day basis, is for private corporate travel. We have got no schedule for flying out of Biggin. We have about 18,000 movements a year, but none of them are scheduled. So August is our quieter period. It's when the rich, famous, and the ambassadors of business all decide to go onto their yachts into the Mediterranean or the Caribbean. So
lovely.
we've got a bit of ramp space left.
And then I also saw that you've got 3 DC-3s / C-47s on the schedule this year.
Yeah, we've got the BBMF, the Battle of Britain Memorial flight are bringing their DC-3 down, so that will fly a solo slot. But then we've got 2 further coming from the UK who will do a duo.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward.
Well,
to
that's
that.
great.
Yeah.
I know. Been a long time. He's part of our nod to D-Day. It's important for us to have it. Then I had the ultimate fighter team to that scenario, and what I'm looking to try and do is get both in the air at the same time, the 2 DC-3s, and the P-47, the P-51, the Bouchon, and the Spitfire.
Well, that'd be great.
During the show itself, Colin, obviously, as you said, Biggin Hill is, predominantly it's all private aircraft, coming in and out of that airport. Does that stop for the air show, or is that still going on as the air show is going on?
No, it stops. So we will stop all movements for the show from 12:30 right through to 17:40. I do get some requests from the commercial development team that there's a particular important customer they've been wooing for years, wanting to come into London on that afternoon. So we may have the odd private jet coming in, but it's not regular.
You're sort of fitting it in around everything else.
Well, you could always just play it off as part of the air show.
Jock, bless him, when he brought the show to Biggin in 1963 was the first. Had 1 minute, or as Jock said, there's no need to put any gaps in between. As one's taking off, one's landed. But we have 2 to 3 minute gaps between display items. We've got an added problem this year that we are resurfacing one of our taxiways, which mean we've got to backtrack quite a lot or bring them through a taxiway that actually comes around the back of the crowd. So from their perspective, it's going to be good, but it's going to take us a little bit longer. But 2 or 3 minutes between items, and it's a solid show. We've got no gaps.
That's good.
Yeah, actually, I mean that must. To be honest with you, and I know we had we all felt a little bit disappointed, didn't we? With Farnborough's air show, and a lot of that was purely because there were very large gaps between the display. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if, I suppose it's one of those where it's like, so there's going to be 2 hours of flying and it's going to take place between, say, 12 and 2, if that's what you're expecting. But as I say, it was, and again, I guess a lot of that is restrictions based on their location and the amount of restrictions there are in regards to flying and all that kind of thing. But no, that sounds like a really winning formula, actually, to sort of have a packed schedule.
So we've got a question.
And it's also good that we are sharing with Eastbourne. I know I've already declared I'm not the biggest fan of seaside shows, but they've got a great place for attracting good crowds into an area to ensure they have a good summer and sell lots of burgers. But what that also means is the Typhoon doesn't take off once to display with us. It takes off twice because it's going to go to Eastbourne and we'll recover it again. So there's added value to the runway sharing the show.
Yeah.
Question for you from the chat room again, Colin, from Neil Lamworn, and he says the question he's got is: there seems to be much less variety in display acts between shows these days. Is it getting harder to attract visitors, and how can shows address this?
Well, you mentioned earlier about the incident that happened back in 2015. There was a big emphasis on the pilot, and there's guys out there that said, "Well, I'm not prepared to take that risk with my future." The last thing you want, even if if you get out, you've no longer got a future because you're being taken through the courts. So I think we're now in a much more stable place as far as regulations concerned, and we're seeing a return of it. But we've also still got the problems of the classic jets. That's why, again, you're seeing the classic jets on the seaside shows, but you're not going to be seeing them doing dynamic displays at land-based. It is getting tougher, and it's not going to get easier.
I mean, do you think there is a chance that once this is all settled down, and perhaps that they've looked at, I mean, could there be a chance where we go back to how things were a little bit, or do you think that ship has sailed now? That's not something that can happen.
I think we can rethink how we do a display. I mean, let's look at the Typhoon display. what do the public want to see from that aircraft? They want to hear that enormous noise we get when the afterburners go on.
Yeah.
They want to see that fast pass. They want to see the gear down. They want to see top and bottom side.
Yeah.
But do they need to see them flying in a circle 5 miles away from you, which is then restricting on where it can fly? So every airport has got space at either end of it. We need to use that and be a little bit clever on how we design our display programs.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's interesting. You say that, Colin, because and Neil was saying again, how do you feel about the restriction on display lines after the incident? Displays are so far away, and Neil also is a keen photographer. He's saying, I find that photography is hardly worth it, as you need like a monster lens to do it. So, as you say, perhaps sort of changing it so that there's doing the flyovers and stuff is a way of sort of keeping the photographers keen and happy as well.
Yeah, well, remember that the actual display lines on a runway based air show have not changed. What we have had is some that were getting a lot closer than the 150 meter line were pushed out, and they're now asking for dispensation to come a little bit closer where they're slow speed. If something like a Typhoon on a high speed pass, a B axis, so nose is pointing basically towards the crowd, has to be 450 before they've turned positively away from the crowd. So we can still have a 250 high speed pass from a Typhoon, 250 meters away from the crowd line. That is. So those haven't changed as far as we're concerned. Yes, again, I'm not trying to bash up the seasides. They are greater distances because if the tide goes out, the crowd potentially can go closer. So that does have greater distances between. But I haven't really seen a difference at Biggin, other than the fact that you do need to be straight and level flying as you're going over the top of the road at the end of our runway.
Yeah. Richard Adams is in the chat room as well. Colin is chatting about how Farnborough has like static stuff on display, but again, one of the things that we noticed with Farnborough is that by the time the public days come, a lot of the static aircraft have disappeared. Is there going to be any aircraft on static display at the Festival of Flight?
We are not particularly bringing aircraft in specifically for static because it gives us the added problem. We've got to get them out of the field again whilst our inbounds from Sunday evening are ready to arrive back with our rich and famous customers. But we are trying to pull out a few more of the aircraft from the hangars at Biggin that aren't very often seen. I mean, what we're quite lucky with is I've spoken to the owner of the Heritage hangar and he wants to clean the floor. So I've got everything out of the Heritage hangar that's got wheels that we can push it on. So they're all coming out.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be. And actually, Carlos was just having a look at the lineup there. You've got a great lineup for the actual festival itself. Do you want to just sort of walk us through it, Colin? What we can look forward to? 'Cause I say I'm really looking forward to coming.
You're testing my memory now without my display program. But yeah, we've already talked Typhoon. The Breitling Jet's coming back from the Royal Air Force. We've also got the BBMF, which is Lang Curry Spit and the Dakota. What else have I got from the Royal Air Force? Well, the Tucano. It's the last time we're going to see it this year. So we welcome that back. Shame we can't have the Singleton Hawk anymore, but fingers crossed in the future that may return. But in the rest of the show this year, we've got the Cat pair, father and son, which should be interesting. I've not seen them fly for quite a few years at Biggin. I've said about the Ultimate Fighters, the 4 warbirds together. The Heritage hangar, I'm probably only going to put Hurricane and Spitfire up on this occasion. But Dan Griffiths will probably close the show in the Kent Spitfire. That should be interesting. Yeah. Hope he keeps all the rules.
I'm sure he will.
We have got the 2 DC-3s. That will be nice. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the B-17 this year, which is so unusual. But Ellie, who owns it, got invited back to her homeland, so she's off to Denmark on that particular weekend. She did say that she didn't think they could afford it, but someone came up with the money. Yeah. So we won't see her with us. But yeah, it's nice to see 3 DC-3s and a Lancaster on the floor. Definitely. That's really good.
Yeah.
What else have I got? I've got the blades back. Now, Mike Ling keeps coming up, and he keeps arriving back at Biggin Hill in a different aircraft every year for the last 10 years. Bless him. Then we've got, say, the Royal Jordanian Falcons. Come on, remind me, guys. What else have I got?
Right, so I'll just go. I'll go through the list on the website, which we'll put in the links in the show notes for this show. So you've got, as you said, as Colin said, you've got the Blades Aerobatic Display Team. You've got the Aero Superbatics Wing Walkers, the Breitling Jets Team, the RF Typhoon, the BBMF Dakota, Team Bronco, which I'm looking forward to seeing those guys. The Extra Duo, the Ultimate Fighters P-47D Thunderbolt. RAF Tucano, which is also a good display as well. The BBMF Lancaster, which is
the Lancaster,
awesome. The Ultimate Fighters.
What kind of posh watch it are you, Lancaster, mate?
P-51 Mustang, the BBMF Spitfire, BBMF Hurricane, which I love seeing the Hurricane. The Turbulent Team, we've got the Heritage Hangar Hurricane, the Royal Jordanian Falcons, which again, looking forward to seeing those. The DC-3 Dakotas, Heritage Hangar Spitfire, and also another one which is also good to see is the Tiger 9 with the biplanes, which is also great to see them those in formation. On the subject of...
You got the Turbs on there as well?
That's not on. I was actually going to say on the. That's not on. No, that's not on the list here. Not on the website anyway.
It is. Love to do the weekends. Yeah. A bit of fun at 150 meters away from the crowd, bursting balloons and doing limbo flying.
So wow, that sounds fantastic.
I was going to say, Colin, when you get when you putting together the show and you're going over the list of who you're going to have displaying and who you're going to get in, and you get the S's or the no's of who's going to come in and display. When's the sort of cut-off point, or is there still a possibility of an extra display team coming in at the show at the last minute?
I will never say never if it's the right thing. So, we pulled a few out the bag that we didn't know we were going to get until really the last minute. I remember when we put the Red Arrows together with the Virgin Atlantic 747. That was a pretty much...
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't. That was interesting. If you want the story on that one, we were in Belgium having a beer at a conference, and the advert for Virgin Atlantic came on for their 25th anniversary. So I immediately went to the Red Arrows who were there and said, Virgin have been in touch. Richard would like to fly with you this year. Wow, so they said. So then I spoke to Richard Branson and said, the Reds really would love to commemorate your 25th.
Oh, wow.
Luckily, both agreed. And that's how that one came together. But yeah, if we got a big act that came in the last minute, we'll try and make room.
Oh, yeah.
Armando, we need you over here.
For the US Air Force to participate. We thought we had an Osprey in. They put everything out to say yes, and then suddenly said, sorry, guys, we've got another commitment. So that we lost that one.
I blame Armando completely.
Armando is our resident Osprey pilot, Colin.
Right, well, I'm not talking to you anymore. We will always say yes to the right aircraft.
Yeah.
Dear. One of the comments we've had in the chat room, Matt, from Neil. Yeah. What was he saying?
He was saying he was just having a look, and he has to say that the £23.50 for an early bird ticket is an absolute bargain these days. Jonathan Warner is agreeing with him, and Graham Haley is saying, especially with that fantastic lineup, which is great. So if these lovely people want to come to your air show, how do they go about doing it? Where do they get the tickets from, and how much are they?
Well, as you said, they're £23.50 for adults, and kids go free. So if you bring a 15-year-old or younger along with you, they enter free of charge. The pricing of our show is about it being a community show. So any money that I make out of the show goes back into the local community to work, trying inspiring young kids into the world of aviation. So that's why we price it as we do. The price will go up on the 5th of August, but you can buy tickets from yourairport.co.uk, the new URL for this year. Couldn't believe I got that one. I thought that one was way gone. But yeah, you can get them through there, or through our Facebook page, LBHA, which is initials for London Biggin Airport Community, so it's LBHA Community. Facebook page, you can push the buy button on there as well.
That's great. Colin, so as we've got you here, obviously a bit of a background on yourself. You know how obviously you must love aviation, working where you do.
A love-hate relationship, I dare say this time of year.
Kind of how do things start with you, Colin, in regards to the the aviation thing?
Well, they probably started when I was a young Army cadet, quite a few years ago. I think 1972 I went to Biggin Hill. And we were doing the radios because they used to do air races there. So there was these pylons around the airfields with these aircraft flying over the top of your head and going round them, and we had to call if they flew inside it. And that particular year got me inspired, but nothing inspired me more than when Raymond Baxter, I don't know if people can remember Raymond from Tomorrow's World, himself a former Spitfire pilot, was commentating on the air show, and they found out they didn't have radio communications between the BBC and the Wessex 5 that was going to drop the parachute team that day. So we drew scores, and I managed to go on with a UHF set, only to find that the parachute team was the Embassy Cigarette Skydive team, which was a bunch of young ladies that dived in bikinis.
Oh.
You can imagine this this rather enthusiastic 14-year-old watching these girls take off their flying suits to reveal their bikinis on board was quite good fun.
Right.
So I had an interest in aviation thereafter.
Right. That's an unusual path, I'll give you that.
Yeah, but I came back to Biggin in earnest. I used to be with the Royal Marine Reserves. We used to bring the troops up there to help out. Then I resigned my commission in 1989. And I got invited back to drive the pilots around. So I had a minibus and carried on from there, really. And then health and safety reared its ugly head. And as I was in the fire brigade at the time, they said, you know about this stuff. So I took over running that in about 97. And then in 2003, the owner of it, Jock Maitland, called me into the office. I thought he wanted me to paint the building again. And he said, no, can you take over the show? There's 30 grand in the bank and there's 50 grand's worth of bills. Good luck.
Always helpful.
Yeah. But we managed to turn it around. The main thing was that the Royal Air Force was the most important thing. And I asked the question, why should the Royal Air Force go to any air show? What do they get out of it? So I completely ripped up the plan for the showground and said, what do you want to bring? What do you want to promote for the military? Obviously, as I already said, I used to be in the military myself, so I had an interest. And I then bumped into a guy called Squadron Leader Andy Palsy, who was in the participation team, and came up with the idea of the roll demo. I take it you guys saw it. It was 3 seasons it ran.
Yeah.
For those that haven't, it involved an E3D, 2 Hawks, 4 Tornadoes, an Apache, and a Chinook. I think that was it. And basically it was a firefight between them all. And it really stole the show, and it could go anywhere because they were frontline squadron pilots. And the air show built, and before we knew it, instead of losing money, it was getting 38 to 40,000 people a day.
That's a crazy number, isn't it? That's such a good number, isn't it? So I'm going to ask the. So we always have a question that we ask pilots, but I'm going to alter this ever so slightly, given what you're doing. If there was any aircraft that you could have either on display, static display, or ideally doing whatever display you wanted to do, is there one aircraft that you would love to see on display doing a demo?
I think there's many people who say I want an F-35 and whatever else, but what really, really made me look up and grin was the first year in '92 when we saw the Su-27 at Biggin, and it was the first public display in the UK. And when you got up close and saw how bald the tyres was and the Bakelite switches inside that aircraft, well. But I would welcome that back tomorrow. It was a stunning aircraft, and when Anatoly was flying that, it was absolutely awesome. So I'd always make space for that.
Fantastic. Now, Armando, you've just got one last question for Colin before we wrap up the interview.
Yeah, this year I'm going to Oshkosh and I'm bringing my lovely bride with me, and one of the things that I was trying to figure out is what is she going to do while I gawk at airplanes. So as a community event, what aside from the airplanes and everything we described, what are some of the ground activities for families?
Well, as we said, we are family based, so there's the obvious fun fair there. There is many stalls there, and we try and bring in the craft fairs. So we look across the whole family. But what we've really gone big on this year is vintage. It seems to be a growing thing in the UK. And as I said, we're bringing all of the heritage hangar stuff out, but we're also bringing the ladies that are dancing with the guys, the 1940s jitterbug stuff going on, singers and dancers. It's hard to completely put over a show that is going to attract every young lady and will love it. But you can always do Meet the Pilots.
No. He's only just got married. He doesn't want to lose his wife. This is not meant as a way. Yeah. Or you're going to have to step up your acrobatics, I'm afraid, Armando. That's it.
You and your acrobatics, Matt, every week. Every week.
Yeah. Oh, never mind.
Well,
Anyway.
I'd love to come to Oshkosh and see what's going on there. It's a wonderful show. We're sending quite a few of our local air cadets out there this year. They always go out to help. Quite jealous of them.
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
Well, listen, Colin, thank you so very much for taking time out of your evening to chat to us, and we hope, well, as I say, we're going to be there, and we hope that for everybody involved, the show is a huge success. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yep, and don't forget that
if any of you guys, now I will put a limit on this.
Okay.
We've got the Brighton Jet team coming in on Sunday the 11th, about 6 p.m. If a couple of you want to get in touch through yourselves, I'll host them out there on the ramp when they arrive.
Oh, fantastic! There's an offer. There is an offer.
So we will be, me, Matt, and hopefully Matt, and Nev will be at the show on the 17th of August on the Saturday. So hopefully some of you guys and girls who are watching and listening to the show will be able to join us on the Saturday and have a great day there. So again, Colin, thank you ever so much for joining us on the show tonight. It's been great to speak to you, and we're looking forward to the show, and possibly we might even catch up with you there if you're there on Saturday.
Actually, I've got nothing to do. I've got a great team. I just wander around.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. We'll see you then, Colin. Thanks ever so much.
Thanks, then. Take care, Colin.
Take care.
Thanks, Colin.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So there's a lot of chat in the chat room about various ways of doing the podcast, which me and Matt have agreed that we're not going to try for
indeed.
For content reasons.
But Armando, if you want to, I mean that's fine. But maybe more interest if you did it. To be fair, anyway, we're not going to do that.
We're not
for the sake of taste and decency. That is not going to happen. I don't want to put anyone off their food, frankly.
No.
But there
but we are going to
got to continue to uphold that adult rating on Patreon.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, no, we've just got it back. I don't want to do that. The man makes a good point.
He does.
Yeah.
18 and all that.
Yeah.
And so we have got a very special segment coming up for you next. And to introduce that, we'll hand things over to Armando.
Hey guys, over the last couple weeks we've been talking about the Reno Air Races and my increased involvement in it over the last 4 years or so. Well, I wouldn't have been able to do that without George Catalano. George is a Reno Air Race pilot. He's got a long history with the Reno Air Races. He's got a fantastic story to tell about his aviation background, and really it was because of him that I was able to get involved with the Reno Air Races. So what was supposed to be a 20-minute interview turned into really a hour and 45-minute conversation between friends. So it was really, really hard to sort of edit it down to a normal size segment. So what you're about to hear in this first segment is just an introduction to George and his flying background, how he got involved in flying, and he's managed to fly a lot of really, really cool aircraft. So here we go.
If everybody was to ask me what is my favorite thing about flying, it's a little bit like golf, and I'm a terrible golfer. But if you really want to be good at flying, you just have to practice it all the time.
Yeah.
And then even then, you still may not have a very good day, right? It's just like, wow, today's not my day.
It's crazy, and you know the stuff, and sometimes you just get into the airplane and you're just like, man, where am I? What am I doing right now? And I don't know. I always feel like I'm forgetting something or not remembering something or about to really mess something up.
The last airplane, the Lancer 360, was a particularly unforgiving little airplane, as you know. And it just always punished you when you were not on your game, which was one reason I really liked flying it. And I flew it every week because it wasn't one of those kind of planes where you could dial it and fly for 6 months and you could get your Bonanza motor away and squeak one on. This was not that airplane, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Just kind of and I find that rewarding when you do a really good job when you fly it and it goes well because you're doing it properly. But that was a hard airplane to fly well. You could fly it. And you're the only guy ever, I told you this more than once, that actually got in it and flew it well, right off the get-go. Your host.
What I learned from the 360 was to be the most conscious pilot I could be, even in level cruise going across the country, just to be conscious and aware of everything that airplane was doing. Because it was so easy to get away from you that now I take that, so just today, Megan and I went to the airport. We went to Lincolnton. The weather was great. So we're like, you know what, let's just take up a 172. So we just jumped into a 172. Nobody had it. I know where the keys are. And, but it was cool because even something like that, I think it would be easy to just get in it and go. But then you remember, hey, I was successful in the 360 because I was always conscious about what was going on. And if you take that from airplane to airplane, I think is probably my biggest takeaway.
Well, the other thing that I find interesting about flying is that I learned how to fly when I was in college, right? Getting an engineering degree. I was going to be a pilot. That's all there was to it. Going to fly, going to get all my ratings, going to go land a job at United or whatever. Deregulation happened. You couldn't buy your way into a flying job. But I had my CFI, II, multi-I, ATP, and nowhere to go, right? But I had an aerobatic T-34, and so I started teaching aerobatics, and my friend and I both had T-34s, so we started formation, and we did a formation air show, and we just kind of got away from GA and went into the got involved in a lot of military airplanes, B-25, A-26, got to fly the Mustang, B-17, that was cool. But when you are 22, unless you're really bright, which I'm not, but the things that we did when we were young, 40 years later, you fly with this, of course, flying today is way more complicated, way more sophisticated with, the avionics and whatnot, which makes that a good thing. I thought I knew a lot about flying. I learned more in the last 10 years of flying than I did in the prior 30 because of experimental aviation.
So when you started, so you got all your CFI, your ATP, all that,
mm-hmm.
you did that all just in one go?
Mm-hmm. And then I it was weird. If I hadn't bought the T-34, I probably would have gone and got a flying job and paid, for nothing, and I'd be a pilot today. And my wife reminds me, but you are a pilot today.
Yeah.
You're the same guys that everybody else is talking to, and you're just not flying, a big aluminum tube in the sky, right? So, flying to me is a way of life. It's not really a hobby. It's what you do. You're a pilot, and if you approach it that way, I've always said, and that it's not a hobby, it's kind of a thought process. There are some things with flying that translate into the business world that are perfect. I use the analogies all the time, as a business, as a flying B-17, and it's a war zone, and you're taking flak, and you're running out of gas, which is cash flow, and you're taking on stores, which is, jobs on the balance sheet. Okay, we just lost an engine, lost some employees, and okay, and now the fighters are coming out of the sky. The competition is coming to kick your ass. And they're perfect analogies. And, I share them with my family, not usually so much with work or cohorts, but in my mind, that's what's happening. Trying to get back across the channel, and then, okay, we're going to make it. And having a plan A and a plan B, and what's the worst case scenario, and planning for the disaster, because they're going to happen. Just, you know, if you don't plan for the disaster, then.
Yeah. So with that T-34, how did you get into the aerobatics, and especially on the air show circuit? Did you have a mentor? Did you have a buddy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, of course, the air show circuit then was just like Reno then is not like Reno now, where you have to get adopted by the Pope to be able to fly there. We had 2 T-34s. The FAA, you showed up. It was like, well, we're an air show act, and they're like, okay, you have a waiver. What's a waiver? And they're like, well, okay, we're going to have to go fly with you and show us some rolls and loops at 1,000 feet, and then we'll call you down to 500, and that's as low as we're going to let you go. No, it was fine. We didn't care. That was it back then. You know, not so now. So I got super, super, super lucky, and to this day, my motto has always been to give back. That's why I never took your $100, because it was like, oop, you know, if this helps somebody buy another airplane and live their dreams, and that's what I said I would always do, because I got super lucky. Freshman year in college, I'm walking across the courtyard, and there's this girl walking at me, and she is right out of a magazine of wow. I say, hey, we should go out. She goes, well, come on up to my dorm room and pick me up, and we'll go get some food. I go up to her dorm room, and the ginormous 3-foot by 2-foot poster is a P-51 called Boomer. Beautiful, spectacular picture. And I went, quote, what is that? I didn't even know what it was. I mean, how pathetic is that, right? And she looked at me and kind of like rolled her eyes and says, that's a P-51. My dad's in the Confederate Air Force. I looked at her and I said, there's no Confederate Air Force. And she said, yes, there is. Down in Harlingen, Texas. That's where the Confederate Air Force was. It had all the warbirds, right, back in the day. And if you paid into that, you could sponsor an airplane. You got to fly an airplane. We both went to ground school together, and we're friends to this day, and her brother is my best friend, and he was the best man in both my weddings, and he's my daughter's godfather, and so that's where I bought my T-34. In the heyday in 1977, when I got my license, I met her brother right after I took my check ride. She came over and she said, hey, I hear you passed your check ride. Come on over to the Levelland Air Show. My brother's flying in it, and I'll get you a ride in a T-34. And, of course, that was all mumbo-jumbo. I was like, I don't know what you just said, but okay, I'll do it. So I drove from one airport to the other, which is 20 miles away, and the Blue Angels were flying. And she said, hey, this is my friend George. Mike, put him in the back and take him flying. And Mike looked at me and rolled his eyes like, all right, you know, I don't want to take somebody flying. And I got in the back of T-34, and I'd never pulled more than, a G&a-half, accidentally. And I'd never flown formation, and I'm in the back seat, and there's a wingtip stuck in the canopy over here, and I was like freaking out for 15 minutes of loops and rolls, and it was crazy. And that's how I got introduced to Mike and the rest of his family, and, and his dad became like a second dad to me. And I ended up teaching her how to fly.
Wow.
She did the ground school, and then she started flying, and she wasn't getting along with any of her instructors. And I got my license, and then my IFR and commercial and CFI. And her dad was watching us all along and said, why don't you get checked out in the T-34 and finish her in the T-34?
Oh, my goodness.
Drop the mic, right? I mean, I'm 21. I'm going, what? I said, okay. So here was the fatherly advice I got that kept me out of aviation. I sent off applications, and I got a job offer to fly Bamboo bombers out of Chicago Midway, flying canceled checks. And I was going to take the job. So I called. His name was Max. I called Max, and he raced out at Reno, and his records are still in there. And I said, hey, I'm going to skip my last semester of college, and I'm going to go build multi-time in a Beech 18 out of Chicago Midway. He goes, why don't you come over to the house? I said, oh, okay. Left my apartment at the time. I was a senior. Drove over to their house, and he poured me a scotch, and he said, there's no way in hell you're doing that. You're not doing that. I said, why not? He goes, you'd probably get killed, number one. He said, number two, you're a semester from an engineering degree. Why would you want to go fly that crap? I said, that's right. It's a passage. And he was like, put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, I'm not letting you take that job. And my dad, he was like, if that's what you want to do, go do it, you know? But Max was like, no way in hell. And I didn't take the job. And I graduated and couldn't afford to go be a pilot. And I moved to Casper, Wyoming. And that's where I met the Tired Iron Racing team and got to fly a Mustang, the B-25, the A-26. They had everything.
Wow.
I mean, and I just pulled up to the airport going, man, where am I? And they opened the hangar door and I went, oh, Corsair, full-time pilots, mechanics. It was crazy times. Gas was 40 cents a gallon, and we flew every weekend. So that shaped my aviation considerably. And, then we restored a Harvard. It was an SNJ 4, and I raced that in Reno in 84 and 85.
So you took the plane down to Reno with the intent of racing it just by yourself, or?
So I had another dad. I had my real dad, I had Max Hoffman, and then I had Dick DeMars Aero racing engines. And that is where I learned everything that I knew at the time about engines. I got a job there. I was the chief flight instructor in college at the hangar right next to this engine shop. And so the girl in the engine shop was his daughter, and we started dating. Her name was Tammy, and I taught Tammy how to fly, and I taught Joe how to fly. And they had bought this T6, and they were going to restore it, and it was all in parts. I mean, like a lot of parts. And he was going to race it. Well, Joe and I were flying one day. I was on the T-34, and he was in the pits, and we were going up to South Dakota to see Mike, my best friend. To this day, we don't really know what happened, but one minute he's on my wing, and the next minute he's in the median, plane's on fire, and he ended up dying of burns. And that's a whole nother story, but we don't really ever know what happened. So we finished the T6, and I raced it for 2 years. And then we had some unfortunate weather coming back from Reno. I did some stupid stuff, got stuck up at 18,000 feet above a layer, and a big layer, a layer that went all the way to the mountains. The stuff you do when you're, this is what I'm saying, you're like, I wouldn't have even taken off today. Why would I even fly towards it? There's no winning, He was in the back, and we were at 18,000, and he ran out of oxygen, and there's no heater, and I mean, we're like almost froze to death, and then we were going to die anyway. So it was just one of those, this is an accident report waiting to happen. And the only saving grace we had was a 60-knot tailwind, which blew us over the mountains, and I went all the way out to eastern Colorado, came around backside and landed and got fuel. And that landing was the most go-arounds I've ever done. One airplane at one time, 7 go-arounds trying to put it on the runway. It was blowing so hard in a T6, you're like, in a skinny runway. And I was like, I can't get this thing to stay on the ground.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's kind of how I got to Reno. And after that, I was completely hooked. But the first trip to Reno was in 1979. 6 of us piled into a 210, and we flew to Reno, and we landed in Carson City and hitchhiked to Reno. I mean, it's like 6 stupid college kids, right? Hey, let's go to Reno. We have a hotel? Nah, we'll find one. How much money do we have amongst all of us? $200 total. So there we were in Reno in 1979. Max Hoffman was racing his Mustang, and I was hooked. And so I've been to Reno every year except for like 3 times. One of them was 9/11, so that doesn't count. And so I was always crewing for somebody, and it's kind of like Oshkosh, you know, where you meet your friends and get to see all your good people, and yeah, it's fun.
I mean, that dude is the coolest man I have
in more ways than one.
Oh my goodness me! Wow.
He is an incredible individual inside and out. George has pretty much taken us under his wing, and him and his wife Christina have been incredibly welcoming to us and to what I actually call the Lancer family. That airplane he was talking about, the Lancer 360, was something that I was looking at buying. I didn't know anything about it. It's an incredibly slippery airplane and a bit difficult to fly, and George took me up flying, and I offered him $100. That's what he was talking about, and he declined my $100 and said, just be safe with it. And we've been friends ever since. And then he also got me into Reno. So George is an amazing individual, and that's his introduction. And we will hear more from George as far as his racing in Reno and what it's like to fly there, and then how has Reno changed over the years since 1979.
I can't wait. It's going to be a great little series. Thanks, Armando.
There's some great comments in the chat room.
Yeah.
So very much enjoyed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're going to start to wrap up the show for this week, but we have got one more news story for those of you who are listening, and it is a news story that
was Lane that sent this in, wasn't it? Yeah,
Lane sent this in, and it was this one's on. I've got this off the Ocala news.com, and for those of you who have got a spare $10.5 million
right. Kicking around
in the glove box in your car, or
down the side of the sofa,
or down the side of your sofas. So the exclusive flying community Jumbo Lair, home to John Travolta, is on the market for $10.5 million.
Oh, lovely.
So the Jumbo Lair Aviation Estates, located north of Ocala near Anthony, is on the market, and the price includes one of the country's longest private lighted runways, which is 7,550 feet long, and capable of accommodating aircraft as large as the 737 and also the 707 as well, because John Travolta lives on that estate as well. So if you're going to pay this money, obviously me and Matt have already put our deposits down.
Of course, yes.
You'll get 550 acres of land, 88,730 square feet of manufacturing facilities, a 7,686 square foot mansion with a pool once owned by Muriel Vanderbilt.
No one cares.
One for Matt here for his singing. You'll also get an 8,735 foot banqueting hall with conference room for 400 guests.
Myself and Mother will put the catering facilities full use there. Yes.
Another good one here. You'll get a 1,456 square foot fitness centre.
Right. Okay. I could turn that into like a barbecue room, maybe something like that.
Okay. Well, the best one, 1,000 square feet pole house bar.
I thought you could say pole dancing.
Dancing bar.
Anyway, you get the gist. A very expensive house is up for
but
grabs.
also not just the actual asphalt runway. There's also a 3,640 feet by 100 feet lighted turf runway for those GA flyers out there. And not forgetting, there's also a pilot's lounge with staff quarters, 12 rental units, and 17 developed estate lots, all with runway access.
Lovely. Well, if you'd like to read all the details about that, I'll stick them in the show notes if you'd like to maybe put an offer in on said property. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, you'll find us on
with 10.5 million.
Yeah, with 10.5 million. www.planetalkinguk.com. Our email address is podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Search for us on social media by looking for Plane Talking UK. And don't forget, our t-shirts are available on the website. Take yourself to the Plane Talking UK website, www.planetalkinguk.com. Click on the shop and you can buy t-shirts from there too.
So we're going to say a big thanks to our guest Colin Hitchins, who we spoke to earlier on the show. Great to talk to him, and don't forget me, Matt, and hopefully Matt and Nev will be at the Biggin Hill Air Show or Festival of Flight on the Saturday. So hopefully, if some of you guys and girls who are listening to the show are going to the Biggin Hill Festival of Flight on Saturday,
make sure you get in touch.
So get in touch. Let us know you're going, and or just tap us on the shoulder when we're there.
Yeah, do that. Armando, been a great pleasure as always, matey. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys. I hope to dial in from Oshkosh on Friday, hopefully with Pip at my side.
Ooh. Yeah, it should be very exciting. Looking forward to that. Yeah, so hopefully a special show. There'll be no Nev next week, but there will be, hopefully us three. Certainly us two, anyway.
So big thanks to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. A big thanks to everyone, and also not forgetting as well, everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast. Thank you to you, one and all. So that's it from us here for episode number 278 of the show. It has been epic, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again next Friday. So from me, Carlos, here in the studio, and Matt here in the studio, and Armando over in his studio.
Everyone say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.